spicy Sri Lankan food on Staten Island, Garifuna cuisine in the Bronx, and badass women drummers. This week, we're in New York City.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. This is the place where we explore the cuisine of the world at destinationeatdrink.com, on the Destination Eat Drink YouTube channel, and here on the Destination Eat Drink podcast. And this week, we're exploring the whole world in one place, New York City, with Emmy Award-winning TV host Mickela Mallozzi. But first, if you like food and travel, Destination Eat Drink is the place for you. Thanks for listening to the show. If you could take a moment to rate and review it, I'd certainly appreciate it. It only takes a minute, and thank you so very much. Mickela Mallozzi is an Emmy Award-winning TV host and the creator of the wildly popular show Bare Feet with Mickela Mallozzi. The highly anticipated 6th season of the show debuts next week on PBS stations. Check your local listings for times. Mickela was in Lisbon recently, so she and I, along with my girlfriend Karen, sat down for a meal at one of my favorite restaurants in the Chiado neighborhood. We had some great food and talked about the new season of Bare Feet, which she shot entirely in New York City. We also talk about dance and music and how these art forms are uniting diverse communities. We also talk food, like the Arapa Lady, Arab grocery stores, and a Uruguayan bakery. Okay. I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Mickela Mallozzi, welcome back to Destination Eat Drink. I looked it up. This is your 5th appearance on the show.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome to the Five Timers Club.
Thank you. And this is our second time in Portugal doing this
Lisbon,
live. It's amazing.
At a restaurant in Lisbon.
It's amazing.
It's so much fun. I just love when people I know, some people I know really well, dear friends and family, and people like you who I know but haven't known for as long, I love it when you come to Portugal and I can kind of show it off a little bit because it's just like, it's so special to me and it makes it fun to share it with you as well.
Well, you know what I love about what I get to do, and I'm sure someone who's living here now as an expat and people coming to visit you, is I love the fact that almost every place I go, I have a friend there, or I know someone there, or I'll, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think an old friend is in Portugal. I have other friends that are here that have moved here. And so that's the beauty of traveling so much, is that some people I haven't seen in years, but I'll come to these amazing places around the world and I'm like, out of my pocket, there'll be a random person that I haven't seen in a few years, and we get to reconnect in a beautiful place. And especially with this, like, I got to see you last year. I never thought I would be back in Portugal this soon and we would be sitting here again. So I love that about travel. I really, honestly, that's like one of my favorite things about travel.
And same for me. I've done over 250 episodes of this podcast now. And so I'm the same way. Like, if I go somewhere, inevitably, it's somebody who I've talked to on the podcast.
Right.
And so I'm like, let's get a coffee. Even better, let's get a pastry.
Yeah. Agreed.
So before we dive into it, we should talk real quick about where we are.
Yeah.
So people know. We are here in Lisbon.
Yes.
We're outdoors, so you're going to hear ambient noise here. There's a street behind us, so you may hear traffic, and you're going to hear people talking in the restaurant. We're at a restaurant called Organi Chiado, which is in the Chiado neighborhood. And this is one of my favorite restaurants here in Lisbon. Thank you for sharing a meal with us.
Thank you.
Tell folks what you had, just so we can share it with them.
It's so funny. I had, it just came from Italy. So ironically, I ordered penne. But it is a vegan restaurant. So I have a cashew pesto pasta, penne pasta, which was delicious. But my favorite was actually the starter with these 3 amazing spreads. And I don't even know what they were. One was peanut and...
One was peanut. One I think might have been like an olive tapenade thing. And then the green one, maybe some avocado in there.
Delicious. They're all amazing.
Delicious.
And the bread, what did you say was
a rice flour bread here.
It's
good. My favorite rice flour bread that I've ever had.
Amazing.
I always get it when I come
It's amazing.
here.
Amazing.
And I had a mini hollowed out pumpkin with veggies, and it was incredible.
It was delicious. Thank you for giving me a bite.
Before I devoured it, I'm like, I better share this because it's going to go fast.
That's good. Very good.
So delicious. All right. So let's jump into it now that we've set the stage.
Yes. And by the way, it's a beautiful, crisp, dry evening here in Lisbon. And coming from a week of extreme heat, it's a reprieve from this insane heat that we've been getting all over Europe this summer.
You came at the right time.
I did.
Because the weather this week has been glorious in Portugal.
It's beautiful.
Now, your new season of Bare Feet with Mickela Mallozzi is out now. It's season 6.
Season 6. We made it.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And you were kind enough to share some of the episodes with me before they aired. So I've seen all of the episodes and I want to talk about them.
Thank you.
But before we get into it, you always have a theme, which I like about your seasons. They all have it. It's not like, well, we're just going here, here, and here. There's always a reason. There's a reason behind it. So what is season 6 about?
So season 6, originally, when you and I spoke last time when I was here in Lisbon, we filmed all 12 episodes of season 5 and 6 together. And the theme of it was right when the vaccines were rolling out. We couldn't travel internationally yet. So we decided to do another New York season, which was beautiful because it was showing the resiliency of New York. It was showing the necessity of having open spaces for art, open spaces for people to congregate after so long of not being able to be together and dance. So season 5, those 6 episodes were the first half of that story of these stories of dance throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City. And really, during lockdown and during COVID, a lot of the world changed, right? We had the murder of George Floyd. We had a lot of anti-Asian hate movement. There was the Me Too movement. And so in this new season, thinking it was going to just be one season, we really focused on voices that were underrepresented in media, underrepresented on television, underrepresented in all aspects of storytelling. And so for season 6, we continue that. Our very first episode of season 6 is called Empower NYC, which I'm super proud of because all these years of filming, there's always been, I've found these stories of dance that weren't necessarily culturally based, nor neighborhood based, nor country based, right? But there were these empowering stories of how dance empowered local communities. So, for example, in that episode, I danced with a group called the Pacemakers. They're a group of dancers that are 65 plus in age. The oldest, I think, the oldest I think is 85, and she's amazing, Rini, and these dancers are like official hype dancers for the Brooklyn Cyclones, and they do all these amazing performances. So I got to dance with them. So it's anti-ageism. I got to learn voguing with a voguing icon in the ball scene of New York from the 80s, Cesar Valentino, who is empowering the LGBTQ community. I danced with disabled dancer and musician Siddiqui Konde, who empowers the disability community through dance and music. I got to rehearse with the Table of Silence performance for anyone who's in New York, and it's also live streamed, but it's the annual performance. It's basically a prayer for peace through dance in Lincoln Center at the time that the towers were hit for the 9/11 attacks. And it's this beautiful piece of how dance helps us heal, right? It's a way that we process these things. And I also get to attend a Native American powwow in the Queens County Farm Museum. That's all just in our Empower NYC episode. So those are these empowering stories of how dance is used in communities to really push forward the arts, but also build community. And then our other episodes include Latinx episode. We have an Arab American episode. There's the Garifuna episode. The Garifuna people. A lot of people don't even know who the Garifuna people are.
I didn't.
Right. And there are 250,000 of them in New York City, and it's this incredible story of resiliency and culture and history and pride, and then our season finale is Little Caribbean, where I have the time of my life. You see me losing my mind, celebrating Carnival, but also doing Moko Jumbies, which has been a dream of mine. And am I missing an episode? I think I'm not. A Little Sri Lanka, excuse me. And there's a Little Sri Lanka episode in Staten Island. So it's really focusing on female stories, on stories of people who are underrepresented. And that's the focus of sharing this new season 6. It's always been our focus to highlight diverse voices, but it was really a priority on being super, super hyper focused on we need to share stories that don't ever get to be told.
That's a lot to unpack.
I'm sorry. And there we go.
All right, thanks for coming. Let's talk about a few of these.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about the Garifuna, because these were indigenous people from St. Vincent. Do I have that right?
Yeah, it was basically it was a people from the country of Mali, modern day Mali, in Africa, and who were brought over to the island of St. Vincent, and were a mixed race with the Arawaks, and they were known as the Black Caribs. And these people were then... St. Vincent was one of the last islands to be colonized in the Caribbean. And so when the British came, they negotiated with the Brits to be exiled to another island. And I'm not getting all the details correct, but eventually they end up in Roatan, Honduras. And only about 2,500 of these people survived this journey from an original number of only 5,000 people. So this was back in the late 18th century. For 2,500 people to survive, for now there to be over 500,000 people of Garifuna descent is a miracle. It's a miracle. 250,000 of them are in the New York metro area. Over half of them are in the Bronx. And it is this beautiful, and the rest of them are in Central America. So Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And it's interesting because a lot of people that identify as Garifuna in New York City, Garifuna was never, and it's still a story to be told because a lot of New Yorkers don't even know who the Garifuna people are. Really, they either, people ask them, well, you're Black or you're Central American or you're Honduran, or Latin American. And so what's really empowering about this is finally giving voice or giving some platform for this story so that people will understand it's neither, or not just one or the other. And a lot of Garifuna don't identify as Hispanic or Latin because they come from the island of St. Vincent as a Black Carib Arawak tribe. And so it's really interesting. But the music is beautiful. The rhythms are amazing. The dances, I learned the punta, and we get to eat the food too. I mean, it's really wonderful. The food, it's interesting. There's no official Garifuna restaurant in New York City yet.
Okay.
And that's been such a challenge for the Garifuna people. But there is this restaurant called Seis Vecinos, which is called the Six Neighbors of the neighboring countries of Honduras, of Central America. But in their cuisine, they do have Garifuna dishes. So it is like these restaurants that are able to cater to the Garifuna community because it's such a large community in the Bronx. It's wonderful. So that's really been sort of the focus of the food. And then you have these people, these families that they're these street vendors on Sundays in the summers that they sell homemade food, and it's amazing food
in the park.
Yeah, in
lots
Starlight
of,
Park. It's
lots
beautiful.
of plantains and beans and rice and
fried chicken. They have these things called bailadas, and then Arnold Avila. He's one of the chefs, and he has his mother's recipes that he does, and his mother still helps him cook in that morning to make the rice, but he does this secret recipe that his mom, it's been passed down for generations of roasting these steaks, and all of this is with such garifuna pride. I mean, that was the thing that I kept seeing over and over again in these stories, not just through food, but through dance, is the pride in the history of the culture, the pride in the history of the people that have survived and thrived through all obstacles, And I think it's amazing that Garifuna people are just really starting to get a footing in identifying themselves to the public, to New Yorkers. People didn't even know. I mean, I'm excited to bring this nationally to our PBS viewers so that they can understand who the Garifuna people are.
Yeah, it's interesting because not only do you have the situation where us as outsiders aren't aware of the Garifuna, but even inside the community, they don't have a sense of how they belong to that community either. Does that make sense?
In a way, yeah. And I think there's some real pillars in the community that I got to meet with. One is Jose Francisco Avila too, and that's been his lifelong mission. He just put out a book about the Garifuna heritage, and it's just this lifelong mission of educating and empowering within the community, but also educating and shining light onto the community for the public, for people to know who are the Garifuna people, who are they,
And after I watched the episode, I did a little dive into the history of the Garifuna and the history of St. Vincent, and I found some interesting stuff because I live in Portugal now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Portuguese. They went to St. Vincent after slavery was abolished because they needed labor there, you know. All right, now our stolen labor is not going to be part of this anymore.
Right.
And so a lot of the Portuguese, like they went to Hawaii and like they went to other places, Portuguese went to St. Vincent. And then I read that Vincentian Creole language has combinations of English and Spanish and French, which I knew, but it also has elements of Portuguese in it, which I wonder if that came from... It must have come from when the Portuguese workers went there to work on the plantations. Yeah. But anyway, that was you inspired me to look up some of that history. So I really liked it.
Yeah.
Let's move now to, I think it was Jackson Heights. That's right.
Yeah. So we did a whole Latinx episode, and Jackson Heights is, first of all, Queens is the most diverse borough in the world. It's the world's borough, as we know, but Jackson Heights has such diverse communities within the neighborhood itself, including a lot of Hispanic and Latin restaurants. And so we feature 3, and one of whom is a dear friend of mine, Nikki Padilla. She was our guide throughout Jackson Heights. She's a Queens native. She's a food lover. She's a tour guide. She's the sweetest. She's like the best ever. But she took me to 3 places, one of which was the Gran Uruguaya, which was the Uruguayan bakery. And right down the street, we went to the Arepa Lady, which she started out as a woman selling arepas on the street on Roosevelt Avenue for about 20 years out of a cart. And it turns out this is what kills me about making the show is we only have 26 minutes that we can fit. We can't go over, right? We have a limited amount of time. But in Maria's story, the woman who was the original arepa lady, she was a judge in Colombia.
Wow.
Like a prominent judge, and her life was being threatened because of the cartels and a lot of the violence that was happening down there. And so she moved her family to Queens and started making arepas out of a cart and selling them on the street.
Incredible.
I mean, it's just to talk about resiliency and a woman who just will do anything for her family, and she really fed the community. But now there are 3 locations in New York City. It's incredible food. Her grandson is the manager. That's who we're interviewing in that episode. And it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful story and a beautiful food. And then we finish at Birrialandia. Birrialandia is a food truck that's become an institution in New York City. It's huge. It's huge. I think now they have 5 Birrialandia trucks. The Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and in Brooklyn. And anytime that the Biryalandia trucks are out, there's a line around the block. There is always a line around the block. And Chef Jose really brought Biryalandia to the forefront in the New York scene. It's really more popular, or was more popular on the West Coast, but he really brought it to the forefront. I mean, they've been featured in the New York Times. It's incredible food. And there's only 4 things on the menu, which keeps it simple.
Right.
Keeps it really simple. But I don't think they can keep up with the demand. It's just unbelievable. And there's a lot of people who are doing birria now because Jose has made it so popular.
I was talking to Eunice Reyes in Los Angeles, and she was talking about how big birria is out there too.
Huge.
And I said, "Oh yeah, I was talking to Mickela Mallozzi about that, and it's just exploded in New York and now in LA, I guess." And she said, "Oh, it's everywhere. it's everywhere now."
Yeah, it's really blown up, but it's delicious. It's delicious. And again, it's that the passion for the food, the passion for culture, the passion for the community to provide food that the community really wanted, right? His original demographic was the people that would get off of work and be waiting at the 7 train, and here's a food truck, and it's delicious food to eat and food that he was eating and from his own community. So I think that says a lot. That says a lot to have that passion for what you're doing.
There's I think in this episode there was an all-female drum group called Batala NYC. Yeah, Batala.
They are, if I can say a bad word, they are bad ass women.
Yes.
They're really amazing women.
I love seeing the percussion groups because here in Portugal, drumming is a big part of the culture. We live directly across from a music school.
Oh, cool.
And so you see the little kids, little kids, up to teenagers going in there every day. And as I'm sitting in my apartment, maybe editing audio or doing whatever, I'll hear them practicing. And when one kid finishes, inevitably there's this big cheer that goes like a soccer roar.
Yeah.
And they just go, yay, but in their little kid voices, yay.
Oh.
And then when they go on field trips and they all go out with their drums, it's an event, man.
Yeah.
But the thing that I wanted to point out was, for every town has several of these drumming groups. Mm-hmm. And I asked someone who was in charge of this. I asked him about the drumming, and he said each rhythm has a specific meaning, and it dates back to the Moorish times.
Wow.
So this goes back 1,300, 1,400 years to when the Moors were here.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, it makes sense because you can feel that Africanness in these drumming rhythms.
Yeah.
And these ladies in this group, they're Brazilian, but of course they speak Portuguese. So
right.
I think there's probably some similar, because there's all kinds of cross-pollinization that goes between Portugal and Brazil.
Sure. Well, the thing about samba reggae groups and especially a group like Batala is each group, again, has their own rhythm. I don't know if you remember her pointing out the clave that's printed on the drum.
Right.
So it's the same idea that you can identify a group based on the rhythm. And that's in a lot of that's an African-based, that's in a lot of all rhythms throughout humanity, but in a lot of African-based rhythms, you can tell who's drumming based on those rhythms. For example, in our season 4, when we go to Guadeloupe for Carnival, if you remember, I meet with Akio, which is like the Mama Mas, the Mother Mas band, and he talks about the rhythm that they started. The whole island knows when the Mother Mas band is playing, because you hear that rhythm, and he sings it to us. Because he's like, no one can do it like us. We have our own. It's a thumbprint. It's a fingerprint through rhythm, and that's the same for a lot of these groups. It's funny. I grew up coming to Italy only a few times when I was a kid, but whenever we would come, there's these sagras. There are these feasts, and we feature La Sagra de la Reina in our very first episode, and they're the flag throwers. I love the flag throwers. I'll be honest, like I have a huge crush on flag throwers ever since I was a little girl. I think they're really handsome. And
Great costumes.
Right, they're wearing tights. Hey, if you're a guy and you look good in tights, it's great. But they throw these flags and they do all these amazing tricks, and it's really impressive. And then they have these guys behind them. It's a medieval practice, right? Tradition. And they have these huge drums that they're drumming. But each team, because there's more than one team in our town, there's more than one team in many towns, you can tell who's going based on their rhythm on the drum. So each team has their like pace, their mark, and that's what identifies them. And if you think about it, that makes sense because by a sense of a rhythm and a drum, you know who's coming towards you, you know who's coming for you, you know who's representing you. It's such a powerful way of identifying yourself to a community, to a town, to a battle.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
all of these things, whatever that may be. That. Yeah, it's your calling card basically. So it's across many cultures, but it's very prominent in especially in African cultures of identifying a tribe or identifying even a family through rhythms, through a specific rhythm.
Let's go to Astoria.
Yeah,
Which is also Queens.
in Queens.
Right? You went to the Astoria Tango Club.
Yeah.
And so for me, as a person whose knowledge of dance pretty much comes from you, that's where it begins and ends for me, Mickela. But I always envision tango as a very sophisticated, high-end dance. And you talk about how tango originated in the poor neighborhoods of Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
And this got me to thinking of fado, which is the singing tradition of Portugal, which originated not far from us in the Alfama neighborhood, which is the poorest neighborhood. It was sung by the people in the very lowest classes. And today, much like tango is a sophisticated dance, fado is sung in the most glamorous, opulent halls throughout the world.
Yeah.
But it got the same start that tango did. And I just found it interesting because I know I keep pulling you back to Portugal. But this is where my head is at when I see this and I go, oh, it reminds me of this in Portugal.
Yeah.
What was your experience with the tango in Astoria?
Well, I mean, I said this many times in the episode because it was so true. I felt like I was back in Buenos Aires. I felt like I was back in BA because it was this little bubble of like a little capsule of Buenos Aires. You know, for anyone who's been to Buenos Aires, you know that tango is such a part of the culture, such a part of the identity of the people, of the identity of the city. I've been there during the tango festival, and you can't escape it. There's just tango everywhere. But also, funny enough, one of the musicians, the bandoneon player, I met in Buenos Aires when we filmed back in 2012. That was when we filmed our Buenos Aires episode.
Over 10 years ago. And then he's in New York.
He's in New York. I hadn't seen him since I met him in Buenos Aires. And here we are. And I walk into the room and I just was like, this can't be Hugo. This can't be him. Because the woman who was my teacher in Buenos Aires, it was a good friend of hers. So off screen, we got to hang out more than what you saw on screen. We just featured him very briefly. But it was like seeing a ghost almost of like, oh my gosh, how on earth are we in the same space right now in Astoria, Queens, the grand reopening of the Astoria Tango Club.
You didn't know he was going to be there.
I didn't know he was going to be there. And to be honest, it was the first time that they were holding this event. It's usually a monthly event. It was the first time holding it since COVID, since lockdown. So he just happened to be in New York. He said that he was like in Philadelphia and Pablo Perea, who's the head of the Astoria Tango Club, he reached out to him and he like jumped on a train or jumped in a car and came up. So it was like very impromptu. He almost wasn't going to be there. But it just reminded me of like, this is what Bare Feet is. This is about making friends by dancing with strangers. Hugo and I mean, we follow each other on Instagram. We've been following each other for years, but we met in Buenos Aires in our second episode. And it was this beautiful reminder of like how powerful staying connected with the world, even when you're not connected that whole time, right? It was really wonderful. And he and I got to dance tango later that evening. And it was just really wonderful to feel connected with the world after so long of being not connected. That's what I think people need to realize is we really didn't want to hone in on the post-COVID story because I think everyone's sick and tired of hearing the post-COVID story. But we filmed this, like some of those scenes were filmed really early on, right when the city was opening up and the world was opening up again. And you can see the excitement in everyone's face of just like being together. And luckily that excitement hasn't worn off in New York and around the world. I think we're here in Europe right now, and we were just talking about this before we were recording, is like it's so many Americans are here. So many Americans are in Europe. They're just excited to travel. I think people in general are excited to travel. And they missed it. They missed it for so long.
Yeah.
They missed it for so long.
Put it off for 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. Come hell or high water.
Yeah.
I don't care what happens at the airport. I
Yeah.
don't care how hard it is to get there. I'm
Yeah.
going to do it. I'm going to make it happen.
And I think people are traveling a little differently. They want to spend a little more time maybe in one place versus just trying to pack everything in.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope that's happening. I don't know. I don't know. A few places that I've been to recently, in a way, it kind of feels like everyone is still trying to go to the same places.
Yeah.
And there are some places that I need to go to that I haven't been to that are big tourist attractions, and I just keep putting it off because I just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I feel like, in addition to that, I feel like I want to discover these places that maybe not so many people have heard about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I can go around Portugal, because even though Portugal is the so-called hot destination, a lot of it is relegated to Lisbon and Porto and maybe the Algarve. There is so much more in Portugal that you can come to see.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Little Sri Lanka in Staten Island, because I got to admit, I've never had Sri Lankan food.
It's delicious.
It's
delicious.
How would you describe it?
Some of it's very spicy. You'll see that.
Okay.
I happen to be getting a lot of spicy food. You would love it because there's a lot of vegetarian dishes. It's very there's a lot of fish seasoning, like fish, salted fish. It's really, how else can I describe it? It's really good. It's really, really, really good. There were a few places we went to. New Asha, which is like we do the short eats. Remember the short eats, which are it's basically like finger foods.
Okay.
Delicious stuff. So it's like fried things, and those were wonderful. But some of them were a little too spicy for me.
Okay.
So if you're not into spice, it might be hard for you. But they did.
But you're a Southern Italian lady. You're used to spicy food.
No, we don't eat. No, it's funny. We put pepperoncini and stuff, but it's not that it's not the cumulative spicy.
Okay.
It's just like a shot of spice. But black pepper, I'm not a fan of black pepper. That's the only thing that I don't like to eat, honestly. But I feel like Indian spices and South Asian spices are a whole other level of spice.
Right.
That's nothing compared to crushed red pepper. But there's so much flavor in it too, which is beautiful, but it's very painful for my mouth. It's very painful. But then we also went to La Cruana, which is it's a 15-minute drive, so it's not technically part of Little Sri Lanka, but it's in Staten Island. It's a beautiful restaurant because Julia Lijasingba, I think I'm saying her name correctly. Her parents started the restaurant, and the father was a designer, and the mother's the head chef, and so it's all home recipes, the mom's recipes. But when you walk in, you feel like you're what I would imagine what Little Sri Lanka would look like, because the father designed the whole thing and imported everything from Sri Lanka, and it's just beautiful. And it's this, they have a Saturday and Sunday all you can eat buffet, which is amazing. So you come hungry, and they have white rice, red rice, yellow rice, coconut rice. They have the curry egg. They have the curry chicken. They have the pork. So they have meats if you eat it, but most of the dishes are vegetarian, and they're really. It's all the mom's recipe. So you're eating,
Fantastic.
home cooked meal basically, and it's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's packed. It's packed all the time. So
you can do it in New York and not have to go all the way to Sri Lanka.
Exactly. Take the ferry over to Staten Island and you're done. But and New Asha, before they make their homemade mango lassi, they make them homemade. They make everything is made in house, and it's a tiny little block. Little Sri Lanka, technically, where we went, is this tiny little block. And there's about 5,000 Sri Lankans people identifying as Sri Lankans in Staten Island. But that's a huge amount of people. It's the largest amount of people of the Sri Lankan diaspora outside of the island nation.
Oh, okay.
I mean, because it's a small, fairly small country. So, we ate very well. We ate very, very well. And then we went to the Sri Lankan market. And it's great because my guide, Sachin Dara, or we call her Dara too, she's a dancer in the Sri Lankan Dance Academy. And so she took me around in her whole community, and it's beautiful because we meet her seamstress, I dance with her dancers, her guru who's a drummer, but we eat lunch and we go to, it's just beautiful. And the amazing thing is, she says this herself. She's young, and she's like, my favorite snacks, my favorite foods, I can't get them at the regular grocery store.
Right.
But here, everything's imported, and I feel like a sense of home.
Right.
And my parents have a sense of home. And that's what you have around all of New York City. That happens in our Latinx episode. That happened in our AAPI episode when we were in Little Manila out in Queens. Is these communities build a sense of home. And in our Arab American episode, I'm going to kind of jump around, that really is such a theme in that episode, because a sense of home for a lot of these people is the sound of the music, and the transmission of information is in the home. And I love the line that Esra Warda says. She's in our first segment in that episode, where she's teaching us Algerian Rai dancing, and she goes, I want my classes to feel like you're in my living room, because that's where I learned. That's where we share culture, history, music, dance, storytelling, food, family. It's in our living rooms.
Right.
And then a couple segments after that, I'm in a living room sharing that transmission through the Brooklyn Nomads, with Hedy Edelbeck. And it's like him and his brother and his cousins. And it's like that sense of home. The sense of home for Baladi. Baladi food is called hometown. For immigrant communities in any place, that sense of home is so important. And that's what we're really showing in all of these episodes of season 6 and in all the communities that are in New York City. And that's what we want to show I think that's why people feel connected to our show, because if they have any sense of feeling like it's home, that makes you feel good. That makes you feel like empathy for people. That's something familiar. Everyone wants to have that sense of home, and that's our goal in Bare Feet.
There's a visceral feeling, whether it's through sound like music, or whether it's through taste, or especially through smell, that can transport you to these certain places, whether it's back to your home country or back to your childhood.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my mother had a flower shop, and there's a flower shop in our city here in Portugal, run by a very nice lady, and she also sells wine.
That helps.
So she has a little happy hour. And I told her the first time I walked in, I had this visceral reaction of going back to my childhood, because it smelled exactly like my mom's flower shop smelled like when I was 14 years old, helping her count inventory, and stuff like that.
Well, they say sense of smell is the sense most connected to memory.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
You talked about your Arabic episode, and you went also to an Arabic grocery store. When I travel, one of the things I love to do is go to grocery stores.
Yeah.
The markets are important too, because I want to see the fruit and veg. But I also love going to the grocery store because you can see the different especially the snacks.
The snacks. Those are the best. Snacks are the best.
It's like,
Snacks are the best.
oh, what is this thing?
Yeah.
All right, get out Google Translate and figure out what's in this thing. And,
Yeah.
what are we eating?
Snacks are always the best. But like I said, Baladi is this beautiful store, family owned, and it was just wonderful getting to meet members of the family. The brother, Essa is the manager, one of the brothers. And then Ayat, who is the sister, she was taking me around. She opened her own restaurant called Ayat, named after her. And now I think they have 3 locations. One they're opening up in Philadelphia, I think. I just saw on their Instagram. But they have one in Bay Ridge and another in another location. I'm drawing a blank right now. But it's beautiful because it's Palestinian food. And she was very specific. She said, look, there are dishes that are just Middle Eastern, and we do those, but we also really focus on traditional Palestinian food. And they opened during the pandemic. They opened a restaurant. Her and her husband opened a restaurant in the middle of a pandemic.
That's some bravery.
Exactly. And she talks about this. She's like, people were so hungry for this food. We didn't expect it to be such a great success. She's a lawyer. She's a full-time lawyer. And her and her husband decided, her husband is a restaurateur, and they decided to open up this restaurant because they saw a need in the community. And it was beautiful. It's a beautiful food. And you can, again, the passion behind why she wants to bring this food to the community. It's really a sense of family. She has 9 brothers and sisters, or she has 8 brothers and sisters. So she's a family of 9 siblings. And so they were a family of 11, and she grew up, she was the youngest of these siblings, and she helped her mom cook every day for the family. And so she grew up making food like this in the proportions that she was making. So,
yeah, right.
So
she's already cooking for a huge crowd.
Exactly. So she just has that passion for it, and she's a brilliant, beautiful woman. And so they're killing it. Like they've really hit a market, and for them to be able to do so well, especially in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, it opened pre-vaccine rollout. I think it was just nuts. When they opened, it was straight to delivery, people coming in and picking up the food, but, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And her family story overall of how important it is for them to make people feel welcome, whether that's at Baladi in the food market, whether that's at the home, because they have a home decor store that the mother opened up next door because she really wanted people to, really decorate their home so it feels like home. And then Ayat, the store, the restaurant, people feel like they're welcome, like they're in their home. Like I said, that's a huge theme in that episode particularly, but overall especially in our New York seasons, because these are communities that have left their homes and had to start a new home somewhere else in New York. And that theme is universal, especially in the United States, and all over the world. Immigrants are everywhere. People who are relocated or having to move, whether that's by choice or not, that's universal. It's universal. So, yeah, it's been a really beautiful journey to make season 6 and to finish season 6. I feel grateful. I have to give a shout out to our sponsors and our underwriters, especially Bloomberg Connects. They just came through, and we are so grateful for them. Otherwise, season 6 wouldn't exist. Our co-producers, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment in New York City. Without them, none of Bare Feet would ever exist. They were the first ones to ever put Bare Feet on air back in 2014. And so I have to thank them every single day for that, but also for Bare Feet in NYC. They helped produce the show. They help us. It airs in New York all the time. That's our biggest fan base. You see us in subway ads because of them.
Oh, cool.
We are so grateful to the City of New York and the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. But without our sponsors, we have the Ewan Foundation, the Ann H. Symington Foundation, and of course Road Scholar. Road Scholar is a big supporter of ours and our viewers. We have our fan base that are very generous. So none of any of this would be possible without that support. We don't get a dime from PBS, and I think we've talked about this very briefly, but it's I love what I do, and I'm grateful that I get to do it, but it's a majority of my job is fundraising,
right?
Which I hate. I hate that part, but it's a necessity. I spoke with.
You act as an independent producer. People think I've talked with Maria Lawton. I've talked with other people who've done shows for PBS. People think PBS is paying you to put these shows on the air. It's not the case.
No.
You're an independent producer. You make this independently. and then it goes to PBS.
Yeah.
They're not giving you anything.
No, and we license.
I mean, they give you a great platform.
Of course, and a built-in viewership. But we have to find the funding to make the show possible, and there are a lot of restrictions. Rightfully so. It is public television, right? So
it's not YouTube.
It's not, and it's non-commercial television. So there can't be any perception that your sponsor has any say in the content.
Yeah, good point.
Which is why it's the most trusted media platform in the United States. And I'm very proud to be part of that community of storytellers and content creators that are trusted. You know, we work diligently to put as much of correct information out there, but also to tell stories that are educational, informational, and entertaining. Which is why you'll never see product placement, or you won't. None of those things. We're not allowed to, first of all. And second of all, I think it's helped me as a storyteller really focus on the story versus how am I going to integrate this brand? How am I going to work this brand into this so that I can get this much money? And if I could, I'd be making a lot more money than I am. But in the end, I think my show is so much better for not having to do that. So I'm really grateful, so grateful for the public television and PBS platform. It's a really special place to be. It's not an easy it's not an easy place to be, but it's without it, Bare Feet wouldn't exist, and our fan base wouldn't exist. You and I would not be sitting here right now.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Well, Mickela, it's just been great talking to you. Before I let you go, just congratulations on the season. If I didn't express that, I watched all of them.
Thank you.
And they look gorgeous. You look wonderful, and you look like you're having so much fun.
I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, like, out of all of this, I love my job. I love what I do. I feel so grateful that this is my job. I get to wake up and, like, convince people to let me dance with stilts on, or to, drum with them. And I've never done this before, or all these things. I feel so lucky that this is what I get to do, and I make a living off of it. It's wonderful. And I get to share it with the world, to show these beautiful cultures. But I really love my job a lot. So thank you for taking the time to watch through all 6 of them. I really appreciate it.
Well, it was fun. I enjoyed it. And I always enjoy watching your show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making the time. It's just so great to get to sit here, face to face, share a meal, and then talk with you on the podcast. It's, I love doing those over Zoom as well, but this is
better.
This is really extra special, because we get to eat, but we also get to, to share with each other. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Obrigada.
Great talking to you.
Obrigado.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Mickela Mallozzi. We could have talked with her all night. In fact, we nearly did. After our meal, we took Mickela to one of our favorite little bars in Chiado called the Old Pharmacy. I had a glass of wine. Mickela and Karen each had a glass of Moscatel, which is a fortified wine from this region of Portugal that's similar to port wine. And Mickela, who spends a lot of time in Italy, compared it to Vin Santo. And as soon as she said that, a light went off in my head. She is so right. And then Mickela starts talking to our Portuguese waiter in Italian because he lived in Rome for a while. It was really a great night. So great, in fact, we nearly missed our ferry home. Luckily, we got on that boat just in time because it was the last one for the night. Anyway, if you want to know more about Mickela and her show, Bare Feet debuts on PBS next week. You can check out her website, travelbarefeet.com. I've also got a link in the show notes along with the places we talked about in the episode at radiomisfits.com/DED256. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, we're buzzing on caffeine. Turkish coffee with a shot of brandy in Serbia, egg coffee in Vietnam, and a cop starting a coffee war in Washington, D.C. Don't miss that. Until then, get over to destinationeatdrink.com. I just posted a video about some of my favorite pastel de nata bakeries in Lisbon. There's not just one. They're on every corner. I tell you, some of the best. You can see that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com. I also just posted a complete foodie travel guide to the city of Almada in Portugal. You might not know Almada, but It's right across the river from Lisbon. Speaking of ferries, you can take a ferry right over there. It's also home to some nice bakeries and good restaurants too. That's all at destinationeatdrink.com. Just click on Portugal and Almada. And while you're there, sign up for the free monthly newsletter. And if you're so inclined, drop us a couple of bucks to keep Destination Eat Drink going by clicking on the contribute button. And thank you very much. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson. I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.